The biggest price fixing and interest swap scandal ever. Hello guys, my name is Sabri bin Mohammad. My ID number is 2018-298076. So today, this video presentation is to give a clearer image on how the scandal happened and who is behind all of this scheme. Okay, before we start, let me show you a glimpse about my video resources that I get from the YouTube.
Is rigged, the biggest price fixing scandal ever. And he's right about this. Now, first of all, we already know about LIBOR. That's how the banks colluded to fix the interest rates, and several banks have admitted to that and paid combined billions in fines, and there are billions more coming. Now, of course, the reality is they're affecting a $500 trillion market, so a couple of $1 billion in fines are no big deal compared to the money they've already made from it. This is the same story we've heard before, but the new twist is now it looks like the federal investigators might be looking into the London-based firm ICAP, which is the world's largest broker of interest.
There are two issues that I want to share to you guys. The first one is the price fixing rate by the LIBOR, and the second one is the interest swap rate by the ICAP. So, these two scandals unfortunately rounded with the same people of the important person in the top banks in the market. The price fixing scandal and the swap interest rate scandal has the same people behind the scenes. To be truth, these people are very powerful that they are beyond the law and judicial system. Okay, now we go deep into the first issue, which is the fixing rate by the LIBOR. So what is actually LIBOR means? It stands for London Interbank Offered Rate. This term is a benchmark interest rate at which major global banks lend to one another in the international interbank market. So, the process is based on the 5 currencies including the US dollar, euro, the British pound, the Japanese yen, and the Swiss franc. Usually, the quoted rate that LIBOR refer commonly to the 3 months US dollar rate. So, from that, we can see that they have a big chance for the big banks in the United States to fixing rate are high. So, how did they do? The financial institution colluded with one another to manipulate the global interest rate, which is the LIBOR itself. With the advantage that they have, they falsely inflating and deflating their rates to profit the trades, or to give the information that they have and were more creditworthy than the LIBOR itself. To be exact, the financial institutions that implicated in the scandal are the Deutsche Bank, the Barclays, the Citigroups, the SP Morgan Chase, and also the Royal Bank of Scotland. To ensure they cannot get caught by the law is by paying multi-million dollars settlement as a fine to ensure they're safe. The worst part is that the fixing rate by the LIBOR scandal is affecting a $500 trillion market. It was a big amount of money that they do. Okay, now we move to the interest swap scandal. So, in this issue, what is the meaning of interest swap, and who is the one that have a responsibility to make the interest swap? Okay, now we move to the next issue, which is the interest swap scandal from the ICAP firm. So what is actually ICAP and what is actually interest swap? So first, ICAP. ICAP is the world's largest interdealer broker and commodities market. They are mainly facilitate a flow of capital and investment through the financial system and support government and corporate borrowing. ICAP also offers broking service for a wide range and of asset classes, including rates, foreign exchange, commodities, emerging markets, credit, and also managed equities. Can you imagine that? How important this firm in the financial system in the market? So, we move to the interest swap. What is actually interest swap are? How the process happen, and how using interest swap can making a lot of money that they tend to make a scandal. So, interest rate swap is a tool used by the big cities, major corporations, and also sovereign government to manage their debt. The price for interest swap are based on ISDAFEX. Actually, ISDAFEX is also similar like LIBOR, which means a benchmark that been calculated privately. Okay, ISDAFEX is not only to set a value. ISDAFEX is not only used to calculate prices of interest swap. It's also used to set value about 550 billion worth of funds tied to commercial real estate, and also the payout on some state pension annuities. So, in this case, the scandal managed to profit 379 trillion market, which is 100 times to the size of the United States federal budget. Can you imagine that? With a small group of brokers that making fraud by delaying the entering price data that provide the banks involved in the transaction, these people tend to give the information about bid and offer swap with the parties that give benefit for them. From that, they earn a lot of money that public cannot see. So, what is the consequences of the interest swap scandal? For me, the ISDAFEX itself already sufficiently power jammed into the world financial infrastructure that any manipulation of the rate affected a huge class of victims, include everyone from state pensioners, the big cities, who having an interest swap transaction, and also the wealthy investors. All of their fund were in this scheme's hand. The idea that prices in the 379 trillion market could be dependent on a desk of about 20 guys in the big banks should tell us a lot about the absurdity of their financial infrastructure. The worst part is many people questioning, after scandals involving LIBOR and ISDAFEX, what are the markets out there that carry out the same potential for manipulation? The answer to that question is far from reassuring because the potential is almost everywhere. We can see that from gold to gas to swaps to interest rate, prices all over the world are dependent upon little private cables of cigar chopping insights we are forced to trust. To make it interesting, I would like to show you how the reporter give his opinion on how to avoid the scandals happen in the future.
Taibbi also explains, when it comes to fixing, that includes the markets for gold, where prices are set by 5 banks in a LIBOR-ish teleconferencing process that, ironically, was created in part by N.M. Rothschild and Sons. Here comes Alex Jones. All right. And silver, whose price is set by just 3 banks, as well as benchmark rates in numerous other commodities. Jet fuel, diesel, electric power, coal, you name it. So it turns out, yep, almost all of these different markets are fixed. They're fixed to give tremendous billions of dollars of advantages to the elites who run them and screw the rest of us. And look, it's built into the system. So this is a conspiracy that's out in the open. You see it with your own eyes. The prosecutors see it with their own eyes and refuse to prosecute on it. Now, we can fix this system. This isn't like those 20 guys are somehow controlling the universe, that if you go and do something, that they're going to, kill 90% of the people on the planet. They're actually lizard people. All these other crazy conspiracy theories. No, this is the conspiracy. And it's staring right at you. And they pretty much admit it. And there is something we can do about it. We can fight back. The first step is get money out of politics so that they can't easily buy our politicians and our Attorney General and our Justice Department and fix the laws on to their side. If we had a real Justice Department and we threw these guys in jail, all of a sudden, they'd be a little less, willing to fix the markets and to, carry out this conspiracy. There's got to be real consequences. Fix the government first, and then we'll get to these guys second. And believe me, we better hurry, because we got to get to them quick before.
I completely agree with him that almost all of the different markets are being fixed and they making a tremendous billions of dollars by making the public seems very hopeless. But if they really wanted a changes, a healthy market, it is not an easy job, but for sure it will avoid the fraud from happen in the future. The first step is by getting money out of the politics, so they cannot easily buying the politicians. They surely targeted the politicians to ensure they can keep their mouth shut. After that, they need to make a real justice department that cannot be easily bribed and judged with honesty. From that, the person making the fraud can be thrown to the jail and proceed with a heavy punishment. Even though it might having collateral consequences later, surely it will make a better nation than keeping all of the criminals freely. In conclusion, I can say that the fraud of this scandal really affected many people, as they can 100% controlling the market and only give benefits to them. The market will become worse if it continues to happen in the future. I hope they can avoid it and strictly making a good law to ensure the person get a heavy punishment. These two scandals were very shock to world, as the money of the market being controlled by this group of people. So that's all from me in this presentation. Thank you.